Hello everyone, I'm home. Welcome back to my channel. I don't know why I had such a long intro when I have so much stuff to show you in this video. We're going to start with a little visit to Danville Gardens. I stopped in there the other day to take some pictures for you all. And they're going to be open for a little bit longer because they've got a lot of mums and they finally marked them down to half price. So I did buy 2 more mums for my front porch. I said I wasn't going to do but 1 mum on my patio table, but I did buy 2 more. And I had such fun walking around talking to everybody. I know all the girls that work there. I know them, to see them. I don't know all their names. But there was a new gal working at the cash register today, and I said, "Do you know my friend Kelly?" And she said, "Oh my gosh." She said, "Kelly's my best friend." And I said, "Well, she's my best friend too." And we got to talking about how even though you don't see each other all the time, you've been friends forever, you can call anybody your best friend. And she said, "Give me your name and I'll tell her I saw you." And I said, "No." I said, "Just ask Kelly if she's ever invited the Fawns to a pool party." And she started laughing and she said, "Oh my gosh, I've got to remember that." Will she tell me she did? And I said, "Yes. That story's true. Many years ago, Kelly and we would jump off the bus and either go to her house or my house and watch Happy Days. And we got it in our head. We were having a pool party at our house, and we got it in our heads that it would be really cool to invite Henry Winkler, the Fawns, to our party. So we had a telephone booth uptown by our post office, and yes, we went and put a quarter in and called information and tried to get Henry Winkler's phone number, and they wouldn't give it to us. So we sat down and wrote him out a personal invitation. And they say he's really cool, but he never even responded to our thing. But she laughed, and we had a good laugh about that. And this is the pumpkin that I bought. I thought that was so pretty. I showed it just a few seconds ago. I just thought the stem on it was beautiful, and I just loved it. So if you're local, go check out Danville Gardens. It's fantastic. Now, the other day, I had an old t-shirt that I had cleaned with, and I was ready to throw it away, and there was a little section of it that was still good. And I had it in my head. I wanted a little black stocking to hang on my new little primitive cupboard that I painted. So as you can see, this is our phone bill. I always use my phone bills. I make individual patterns for all of my stockings. I make a lot of stockings for all the holidays, and I make a new pattern for every one. It's very easy. Just draw out a pattern. You can find them online if you can't draw one, but they're pretty easy. I cut it out and I sewed it. You can even hot glue it and turn it wrong side out. And I cut a little tiny piece of some fabric I had. It was kind of a light mustard color, kind of a brown, and took some glue stick or fabric glue. I don't even remember what I used. And I grabbed up some sticks out of the yard, and I ended up painting the little pumpkin like a rust color and a little green and a little orange, and I glued the little stem to it, and then I hung it on my little cupboard. And it looked really cute, but as soon as I hung it up, I thought, no, I got to go a little further. So I took some glue stick and kind of rubbed over it and sprinkled it with cinnamon. And after I got it sprinkled with the cinnamon, I shook it off, and then I sprayed it with a clear sealer so the cinnamon would stay on. But it gets into the fabric and it smells really good. But if you don't have sealer, you can use hairspray. That will keep it on there. Then I thought, well, I need to add a few little sprigs of something. So I went around and grabbed some sprigs out of my flowers, and it just took a few, like this little leaf. Just grab some. It won't hurt your arrangements at all to grab a few little things. But I took some paper towel and stuffed the stocking very lightly, just so it looked like it had a little bit of something in it. And if you're going to leave them plain and hang them primitive, you don't need to stuff them, but they look cute when they have flowers in them and they're stuffed a little bit. And like I said, I just went around and grabbed little things. I don't know what that little orange thing is. It's in a bowl of potpourri that I have, and it's like a little nut that's painted orange. And you could also put candy in them. I saw these at Cracker Barrel several years ago, and I haven't seen them since, but you can order them online. And they also have the candy canes, and Walmart sometimes has the Halloween candy canes. And you could stick some candy in them, or you could just leave them plain, hang in there. They're cute no matter what you do, and you can use any kind of fabric. I don't throw any fabric away, and the grungier the better for me. And I'm going to leave mine with the little floral stems in it because we don't really have any kids around for candy. But you could make these for your grandkids or kids and put candy in them. And of course, I like mine looking just kind of primitive. So I put that on my little cupboard and I really like it. Sometimes I just get an idea in my head and I just run with it. And it didn't take me probably a half an hour to make that. So I'm thrifting the other day and I find this beautiful plate at Restore, and it's old. I bet it's from the 1800s, guys. It is so old, but it had the most beautiful pattern around it. And they actually had two of them. But one of them, the other one actually looked better than this because it had some brown crazing in it. And it looked older the way I like them to look. And it had a pretty back stamp. But the other one had a big chip in it. And they were $1.25, so I got the good one, and I kind of wish I'd got the bad one. I could have tucked that chip somewhere where no one would see it. And I set it in different places and tried to decide where I wanted it. And then also at Restore, I found this rabbit picture. There's a little bit of fruit in the picture as well. It's a really, really old print, and it's in a really old frame. You can tell it's been framed that way since the beginning. And I saw it and thought it was too pretty of a print to leave in that shabby little frame. So I went looking around the house and I did find a more suitable frame, and I'm going to show you how it turned out later. It turned out really good, and there was a surprise behind that print. So I just kind of the other day went over my mantle with a few little things. Like I said, I put some of my Halloween and fall stuff away and didn't use it all. But I do like to put these up on the mantle because they add a little bit of sparkle. And of course I have my white lights back there. And the copper colors and the oranges look so good with my Flow Blue and my crystal and my pressed glass. And I tucked a few of the Hobby Lobby roses in with it. And it's just a small touch, but when you look at it across the room, it's real pretty. Then I found this little thing I think at a yard sale for $1, and it was dirty looking, and I couldn't wait to get home and clean it up, but I cleaned it up and it's still dirty looking. It's just supposed to look like that. So I found a real cute place to put that. And I was looking for little Christmas dishes for my child's table. And, of course, I want the Christmas trees. But these were good contenders, but I didn't pick them up. I just wanted to show them to you guys. Then I found this at Restore for $1.75. And I knew instantly what it was. It's a punch bowl stand that you put your punch bowl down in. But they had it turned this way, like a bowl. And that's not the way it goes. It goes this way. You turn it upside down, and that bigger part goes at the bottom and holds the bowl, or it's bigger, so it's makes it stable so that the punch bowl won't tip over. You got to have a big base. Then you set your punch bowl down in that top part. Well, the lady said, "Oh, that's so pretty, that bowl, that candy dish," and I knew what it was, and I can't wait to put a bowl in it. So they had this little creamer or sugar bowl with, it's not supposed to have a lid. It was beautiful, and it was 50 cents. Had to have that. Brought it home and shined it all up, and it's just beautiful. And then they had some really good books, and they had them on sale that day, so I picked up this Christmas book. It's a photo album, but to use the graphics inside, I'll cut those up and use them for my crafts, and I'll put them in my dollhouse. And then this Christmas book was beautiful. It had a lot of vintage dishes in it and a lot of cupboards with a lot of pretty things. It's by Lynette Jensen. I always want to say Lynette Jennings because she used to be on HGTV, but it's Lynette Jensen. It's a really good Christmas book. Then I found this book, and I thought, well, that's so pretty and vintage looking, and it was from 1963. That's the year I was born. So I bought it, and since it's not got any real color to it, I just tucked it underneath my fall tree and left it there because I'll probably leave it there for Christmas. And then while I'm putting all these books away, I ran across this little book that I've had for years. Bought it at a thrift store one day for nothing. And it's the Metropolitan Museum of Art miniatures. And it's for a dollhouse. I read the little book, and it was made so you could use these little photos in your dollhouse. And I am going to work on that this weekend and frame some of these and put them in a project that I'm working on, and I can't wait to show it to you guys. But they just made miniature versions, and they're barely stuck on those little squares so that you can take them off and frame them and use them in your miniature projects. So I'm glad I ran across that book because I can use it in this project I'm doing. Then at Restore for $6, I found this huge canvas. I don't want to say her name because I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but it's a Santa print on canvas. Just beautiful. I'm not crazy about the gold. And now I love gold and mustard, but on Santa, I don't care for that so much, or that color. So I'm going to repaint it. But these things sell at Hobby Lobby for $40, $50, $80. It's ridiculous. One of them's $129. So I was tickled to get it, and I'm going to repaint his hat and his jacket. Then I'm looking at the stores the other day in Goodwill, and they had a ton of little cordials that I can use on my doll table or my child size table. I don't need any more, of course. Now, these were real delicate, so I didn't want to use those, but these were not. These were heavier. They were dirty, but I could tell they would clean up beautifully. Then this little stem was beautiful, but they only had one. But it was so pretty and so old and so cool. I went ahead and got it because I can be on the lookout for another one. Now this one will be burned in my brain, and when I go thrifting, I will find another one of those little cordials. And these are just little tiny 2.5-inch like juice glasses. I thought they were so cute, but they only had one, and I didn't get it. But I had so much fun. I did buy some little cordials because I'm going to end up with 3 or 4 child's cabinets, you guys, so I need some more. And I really hated leaving these behind because they were 99 cents, and normally I would just pick these up because that's my pattern. And I don't know why they have 2 creamers and 1 sugar bowl, but I didn't get them because I have these. I probably have 2 of each of those. So I left them there, but it was difficult because I always think I could give them to somebody, you know. And then the Harker Pottery Company was near where my grandparents lived in Ohio, and my grandma had a lot of these plates. I have a lot of this plate that's shaped like this, and the old vintage prints are just beautiful. But I didn't buy it because I thought, Marcy, do you need every Harker plate that you find? And then they had this biscuit jar that I thought was beautiful, but I don't need it. Another pitcher that I don't need. And this little pitcher, I bet every one of you have seen this out because I see it when I thrift all the time. I have my grandma's, and I see them all the time, and I've bought them and sold them in my store, and I passed on this one because I've kind of overdone this pitcher, but I have glasses that match it. And it's just a popular old pitcher. You see it a lot. You can find one if you're looking for one. Then I saw this big platter. Oh my gosh, it's huge. And it was just so beautiful. And I thought that pattern reminded me of the new Pioneer Woman pattern that's been out for a couple years, and I didn't know about it, called Agatha. This is the Pioneer Woman stuff at Walmart and Walmart.com. It's just gorgeous and looks so antique. And once I realized they had that, I had to go check it out. I haven't bought any yet, but I took this gigantic platter and put it in the basket underneath my fall tree, and the lights shine on it. It's just pretty. I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but it is gorgeous, and it was $1.49. I had to have that, guys. And then I want to thank you all for your nice comments about my little primitive cupboard that I made for my kitchen out of that old wood. I had so much fun decorating it. And this is the mustard cabinet that I painted it to look like because I love the mustard color. And this time of year was last year when I was making my wood countertop. I woke up that morning with a whim that I was going to make my wood countertop, pulled my old one off and started putting the pine down, and I started decorating it before I even stained it, and I was showing it to you guys. And then of course I put the stain on it, and before the stain was dry I was already decorating it. Well, that little section back there is where I set this little mustard cupboard, and I just love it because it stays back there against the wall, and I still have plenty of counter space to work and do things. But I've had more fun with that shabby little cabinet that was made out of all that old cruddy wood that should have been burnt on the burn pile. But that's a no-no around here. You don't burn wood. You build stuff with it. And I took my little dirty house and stuck it up there on the top with the leaves, and it looks so cute. It doesn't look Christmassy. It just looks neat. Then I have this little pumpkin. It's an artificial styrofoam pumpkin, but when I got ready to put a stem on it, I didn't have a little stem, and I had to put this great big one on it, and I got so tickled at it because it looks so grand for such a little pumpkin, but I get a kick out of it, so I left it that way. And then I'll get my Halloween house out. This is the one that I bought, the little $2 house at a thrift store, and spray painted black and sprinkled cinnamon on it. put all the little characters in it and light it up at night. And like I said, we don't have many kids that come here, but my husband likes this little thing. He'll say, "You gonna light up our haunted house tonight?" And it's so cute, and I've had it in a video, and you should go back and look at how to do that. It was a whole lot of fun. And then my little, I call her my junk mail angel. I took a bunch of slick ads out of the Sunday paper, like the Kmart ads they used to have in Walmart. And I made her into a little angel, and she's on all my trees. I usually don't put her out till Christmas, but she's got a rust-colored dress on, and red hair, so I put her on my fall tree. And then on top of my pie safe in my kitchen, it's all red. Everything in my kitchen is starting to get red or mustard. I wanted to brighten it up a little bit, so I took that cake stand and put it inside that big mixing bowl that Rosie gave me that I just love, and it gives it a much needed rest. You know, you got all this red and orange going on, and the white or off-white really makes your eye rest for a second. And then I'm getting ready to put all my, this is last year's picture, but my pie safe will be full of all my Halloween decorations. And I'm not putting them all out this year, I don't think. Now, I might change my mind, and I may just load them up. But this is my little miniature antique store. It's always decorated for fall. I don't change it. And this is the inside of one of my doll houses, one of the Halloween collection rooms. I look at these and think back to Judy Henry, my friend. Her and I used to sit late into the night and make little Halloween things for our displays because we both loved Halloween, so you can have everything you want when it's in miniature. And then this is one of my little cupboards that I've had for years with all my little miniature things that I made most of them. And it's a mustard color. I had painted this little cupboard years ago, and there's the mustard again. And all these little characters, some of them are just printables that I cut out, but sometimes I would take clay and make little pumpkins and put little handles on them, and it's just so much fun. I try to add a few little Halloween things every year. These are some little Halloween treat bags that I made. They're about an inch tall, and there's a little Snoopy Peanuts Halloween book down there on the bottom shelf that I made. And of course, I always decorate the front porch of my doll houses for the trick-or-treaters. That stackable pumpkin is a straw holder, and of course, you got to have candy for the trick-or-treaters. All that's really micro tiny. And this is inside. Now, sometimes I'll put that cupboard in my big doll house just to decorate for Halloween, because I have several cupboards that I've glued everything into, so I can just move the whole cupboard. And on top of that cabinet are my little 1 inch and less little pumpkin man that I made out of clay. I just love Halloween stuff. So here's my rabbit picture. Now, I went through my frames, and I had this old frame. Well, it's not old, it's new. It doesn't look like it's ever been used, from somewhere, and I think I gave $1 for it, and it's just the perfect size for the little bunny picture. So I took the bunny picture apart, took this apart, and I cleaned it all real good, and laid the bunny picture up against it, and could tell that it was going to fit perfect. And this is the little frame that was around the bunny picture. It's very old. And as I went to take it apart, I realized it had been framed for, well, I'll tell you later. I found out 96 years, and I'll tell you how I found that out. So I took those little nails out and took the cardboard off. And the print had been probably out of a magazine. But when I turned the cardboard over, guys, this is what I found. It's a cardboard piece of advertisement for Beech Nut Gum, and it says Will Rogers on it, and he's lassoing the gum. And it's just a piece of it. Someone had cut up a big advertisement and put it in this picture for cardboard. And I thought, oh my gosh, I've got to look that up and see how old that is, and it'll give me an idea of how long this thing has been framed. So I took that out, and it's in perfect condition. If I had the whole thing, it's worth a lot of money. But anyway, there was 3 other little pieces of cardboard, and I thought, oh good, maybe those are the rest of the beech nut sign. I can glue it together. But they had nothing to do with the beech nut sign. They had just used those for backing. And there was a little picture that was glued to that thing and the mat, and I carefully pulled that apart, and it was this little picture of a dog, and it kind of tore up, but they have had that framed at one time before they had the bunny picture framed. I thought that was just so interesting. And then, of course, they just found this pretty picture of the bunnies and the fruit, and they just put it on top of the dog picture on the mat. And the mat was really discolored and looking bad, and I did have to cut it down a little bit to make this picture fit in the new frame. But I was thinking, I wonder how old that thing is. So I took the beech nut cardboard advertisement, the portion of it, and I just tucked it up behind some stuff on my pie safe until I could look it up. And I looked it up, and, well, I'll tell you here in a second. But I don't know where I'll put that, but I'll probably just tuck it behind my Halloween decorations every year just to remember how I found this behind this picture. But it's called Bunnies and Rabbits and Fruit. And okay, this is the frame before. Yeah, I put it all back together, and I put that in the styrofoam, and I thought I'm going to put a little note in here telling them about all this other stuff and put the picture of the dog back where it was and tell them how I found all this stuff. So I think I might just go ahead and put the beech nut advertisement back behind this too. So 100 years from now, somebody might be framing this in a different way, and they'll find all that information. What do you think? So I set it up on top of my mantle to see if it would look pretty hanging next to my picture of my little kids, and I think it would, but I think I'm going to add a little bit more gold to the frame with some paint to make it look a little bit more vintage and a little bit more matchy with that frame. So I got it all done, and I went ahead and tucked it behind the little thing by my front. Well, when you come in my back door, I have that little cabinet that I made that's like a cookbook stand, and I set this on top of it. And I'm going to leave that there until I decide where I'm going to hang it in the house. But I think it is going to go above the fireplace next to that other picture once I paint the gold a little bit more. So I looked up beech nut gum advertisements with Will Rogers and found that they're quite pricey if you have them in full form. And this one was from 1929. So that's 96 years ago, guys, that this thing was probably framed. So when I put it all back together, I put that picture of the dog and, like I said, a note. And I think I will take this beech nut thing and just put it right back in the frame. That would be nice for future owners of that picture. So we take off the other day and go to the bank in Covington, and my bank's flowers are still going crazy. They are so gorgeous, and the little courtyard's so pretty. And as we're sitting in line, I was taking pictures, and I told my husband, I said, wouldn't it be wonderful to have a little courtyard like that where you could just go out there and sit around all your flowers and have a table and chairs out there and an umbrella? He's like, oh yeah, more to take care of. But, oh, their flowers were so beautiful. So we drive around a little bit, and there's one house there in town that has this big tree with a big hole in the side of it, and she's got a little rabbit tucked in there. And the reason I say she is because I've gone to this lady's house a few times for Christmas tours, and she's got the most beautiful home. And when I drive past this little rabbit in that tree, I just think that's so sweet. And I just think of the little kids that walk down the sidewalk and discover that little rabbit, how much joy they probably get out of that. And then we see this yard sale, and it's Friday afternoon around 4. So I'm thinking it doesn't look like they have much, and everything's probably gone, but those are the kind of sales you want to stop at because they mark things down, and sometimes there's some good stuff left. So we pull up and go up, and the people were so nice, and it's a big, beautiful home that I've always loved, so I was talking to them about their house. But I picked this up, I think it was 50 cents. Memories of my mother. I think everyone I know had one of these, and this one was like in brand new condition, and the lady said, oh, I have the gigantic one and that little one, and I don't need the little one, so I'm selling it. I said, well, this is memories of my mother. And she said, oh yeah, everybody had those. And then I'm always on the lookout for things for my son's apartment or future homes. I thought this looked like kind of a manly lamp, like if it was sitting up on a shelf. It's got just like a night light bulb in it, so it gives off a real soft glow. Don't know if either one of them will want it, but I'm always on the lookout for things for them for the future so that they have a nice home when they get it. I fixed their apartment up pretty good for them. And then I got this table. Oh my gosh, guys, this was the biggest, heaviest table. It was only $10. Someone had painted it black, but I thought of the boys, didn't think they'd really want it, but I can use this as a display table in my store. I can use it as a desk, for that price, it's just beautiful, and it's in really good shape, and it's really heavy, and it opens up. I don't have a leaf, but I could make one, and I was real tickled with it. So I brought it home, and the lady said, "Oh, you get to have all the cobwebs underneath it." And she was embarrassed. I said, "Oh my gosh, in my barn, it'll get more cobwebs on it." And then my morning glories are just coming up everywhere. They're sneaking across all my flower beds and into our driveway, and they're wrapped around my, this is a geranium that I thought was on its last leg, but today it's got all kinds of new blooms on it. It's wrapped all in through there, and I've been collecting the seeds, and I've got seeds for anybody that wants them. Just put a message in the community section here, and I'll send you some. And I've got pink, blue, and light blue. And this is one of the mums I picked up. Now that little basket, I want to tell you about old baskets. If I find them at yard sales and they've got a nice shape but they're ugly, I just take some watered down paint. Like this one, I took some watered down black paint and just kind of lightly brushed over it, and they look antique. And they look a lot better than they did when you picked them up at the yard sale for $1. This is one that I did. And then, of course, I got to thinking about my big red basket I got that looked like the one from the covered bridge. And the covered bridge is coming up next week. And we'll be going. My son and his girlfriend are coming next weekend to go with us one day. And I'll be taking lots of pictures for you guys down there and take you on a wonderful trip to the Covered Bridge Festival. I'm so excited because that's our anniversary week and we always go. And then this is my son's birthdays this week. This is my husband at the hospital calling probably 50 people telling them that the twins had been born, and he was calling. I gave him a list of about 20 women from my beauty shop he had to call, and by golly, he stood there and called every one of them proud as a peacock. But I don't know how these little guys are 25 years old this week. It blows my mind. We went up and had a little birthday supper with them at their apartment, and I took cake. And then we went out yesterday. I'll tell you about that in a second. But I made a new cake. I saw where they love German chocolate cake. And I saw where you take the German chocolate cake, you mix it up, and then you put the icing in the cake mix and bake it. And I did that, and I kept out just a little bit of the icing to put on top. And then I made my own chocolate buttercream icing. And I buttercream icinged it. Then I put a little bit of the German chocolate cake or icing on the top. And they said it was delicious. And then I found this little cake at Meijer. My boys love tacos, and I just thought it was a cute little taco cake. So we had the little German chocolate cake and the taco cake. And then on Saturday, they came home and went to Terre Haute with Kevin and I, and we went to the Larry Bird Museum again. They love that place. And we had a lot of fun. But I sat and looked at the videos more than anything, and they were shooting baskets in this little area that they have. And before we left, Marcus said, "We're not leaving until Mom makes a basket." So they take me into this little place where they shoot baskets, and we were there for 45 minutes, and they were like, "Okay, Mom, we're going to bribe you with tacos. Make a basket." So I finally made a basket, and we left. I'm not a basketball player, I'll tell you. And we had a lot of fun. They love that. I love my boys. So as we're walking out, I saw these little berries. I used to pick these little berries and put them in my little vintage bowls in my doll houses. They look like tomatoes and apples, mostly like tomatoes. And I had to look at those. And then at one of the Goodwills there in town, the boys were wonderful. They said, "Mom, we're taking you to Goodwill." They had these little Christmas plates, and I did get 2 of them because I don't know if I'll ever find those antique Christmas plates that I want for my little child's table. And these were, I think, 99 cents. So I picked those up. And then, guys, I have never seen this pattern of dishes in my life. They were pink dishes with pink roses. And I looked them up when I got home, and I can't remember. I think they're called Anglo. But they're beautiful, and they just had a lot of little pieces left, little bowls and little plates. So I got those for my child's table, and they are gorgeous, and they're from 1925. And then this is the one little stem that I bought. I put it up on my child's cabinet, and like I said, I'll find another one of those now that I've got it in my brain. Plus, I have a picture of it when I'm out looking at my little tiny cordials. Nobody wants these cordials. If you guys ever want to do a little child's table, go find cordials. There they are. You can find tons of them. I washed them up and put them on my little shelf, and they just were so beautiful. They won't hold a lot. The little kid's going to be mad that they don't get much to drink out of them, but they're so beautiful. And I guess they used them for alcoholic cordial drinks. I don't know, but there's a lot of them in the thrift stores. Then I found this little pumpkin that I had from last year. I did set it there and put a little battery-operated candle in it. Found this little sign at the thrift store. My first thought was I'll repaint those letters so they look a little brighter and a little better. But I set it up on a shelf, and the more I look at it, the more I like it just the way it is, and I'm just going to leave it that way. And then I was at the thrift store the other day, and for 99 cents I found this drawer. It's just a desk drawer. And I looked at it and I set it up like this, and you guys can just probably guess what I'm going to do with this little drawer. It is so cute, and I'll be painting over all that little decoration. Somebody worked really hard to paint those little birds. But I'm going to paint over it, and you know what I'm going to do with it, and you'll see that soon. So please join me at I'm Home on Facebook. I was in Goodwill the other day, and I ran into one of my viewers, Mary. I want to say hi to you and your niece and your sister. We had a good talk, and she said, I can't find you on Facebook. And I said, it's the picture of the apples and a book about apples. And she said, I can't find it. So this is the picture to be looking for if you want to see me on Facebook, and I'm home. I want to thank you guys from the bottom of my heart. I love you guys so much. My channel grew quite a bit over this last week, and I appreciate that so much. I'm going to be really busy today and tomorrow doing some things that I will show you on the next video, and I don't want you to miss it because it's going to be great. And like I said, I love you from the bottom of my heart.